As the crimson sun sank behind the ragged mesas and the desert wind began whispering through the sagebrush like a lonely spirit searching for a home, Cowboy Elias Hart was finishing the last chore of the evening when a faint knock, so fragile it almost seemed afraid of being heard, tapped against his wooden door, and when he opened it, lantern light spilling across the dusty porch, he saw an old Apache woman standing with two daughters pressed tightly at her sides, their faces streaked with exhaustion and hope. And the woman's trembling voice broke through the quiet, saying, "No one gives us shelter," as though she had repeated that sentence too many times on too many cold nights. In that single moment, something deep and raw stirred inside Elias. A memory from his own hard years wandering the frontier alone, surviving storms only because one stranger's kindness had once saved him. And without a heartbeat's hesitation, he stepped aside and told them they were safe here, his voice steady, warm, and certain. And the old woman's eyes glistened gratefully as she stepped inside his cabin, a place that had known more silence than laughter for far too long, while the younger girl clutched her sister's hand as though entering a world she no longer believed existed. Elias set blankets near the fire, poured warm stew into tin bowls, and as the heat began melting the cold from their bones, the old woman quietly explained their journey, how an early cold snap had taken their village's supplies, how they had walked miles from settlement to settlement, how every door had closed on them, simply because people feared what they did not understand. And though she spoke softly, Elias felt the weight of each refusal like a stone dropped into still water, rippling through the room, reminding him of how cruel the world could be when it forgot its humanity. But tonight there was no fear here, only a cowboy's steady heart and a family desperate for rest. And as the flames crackled, the daughters slowly began to relax, their eyes drifting around the cabin as if memorizing a rare feeling, safety, and the old woman shared stories told in the soft cadence of the Apache people, tales of earth spirits, of courage hidden in the small moments, of the way the desert sky carried every prayer in its vast silence. And Elias listened the way a man listens to something sacred, realizing the West was far larger than any ranch, any town, any boundary men had drawn. By dawn, when the sky blossomed with pale gold, Elias stepped outside for water, only to find the youngest daughter already trying to help, lifting a bucket nearly half her weight, determination glowing in her tired eyes. And he realized they were not seeking charity. They were offering the quiet dignity of people who had endured hardship without bitterness. And the older daughter soon joined them, helping mend the fence boards loosened by last night's wind, while the old woman prepared healing herbs for Elias's stiff shoulder, noticing his pain with the instinct of someone who had spent a lifetime caring for others. As the day passed, a feeling Elias had not known in years began to settle over him, something like home but warmer, something like belonging but deeper, as though the land itself breathed easier with this family beside him. And when the sun finally dipped behind the hills and painted the world in warm shades of orange, the cabin filled with soft laughter, something so rare on his ranch that it felt like hearing music for the first time after years of silence. The old woman thanked him with a quiet sincerity that struck him deeper than words had any right to. But Elias shook his head gently, telling her that it was he who should be grateful, for she and her daughters had brought life back into a place that had forgotten how to feel alive. And as the stars rose like diamonds scattered across a velvet sky, he understood something vital, that the greatest legends of the West were not carved from gunfights or gold, but from simple acts of compassion, from opening one's door when the world had turned its back, from choosing kindness over fear. And so in that small wooden cabin on the edge of endless prairie, under a sky big enough to hold every hope they carried, Elias Hart and the family, who once stood trembling at his doorstep, found something neither had been searching for, but both desperately needed: a sense of home, woven not by blood but by humanity, by courage, and by the unspoken promise that no one would face the night alone again.